Hello everybody. Hope everyone's doing really great. So in this stream I'm gonna start by looking at making some super units. Let's start with that. Let me check, make sure that volume is pretty good. Okay, I think I can turn it up a little bit. Okay, so the last stream I did last stream we were trying to build this build system. So we got a wall. So that was our last stream's creation, and I want to rotate. Works pretty good. Okay, so that was last streams. In this stream I want to look at the creating super units for the character. So currently the character, if we go inside our character, this is the movement control. Well, not all of it is actually movement. Let me see what I have here. So this is the logic for picking up resources. Okay, that needs to be moved, needs to move to another place. Then allow move. This is for resources, actually mining portion of it. I need to clean this up. On mouse input events, I have disconnected the other part of it, but the movement part is right here. So I will actually remove all of this. I did a update at the package and included the whole file, and all of this is still in there, but currently I'm not really using it in this game because I'm ported the player from another. Import. Okay, so what do we have here? We are all here. Thank you for the stream. Okay, welcome. And so I guess all of this is some other functionalities that I added to the player. That's the majority of that graph. But the movement part is right here, and I will actually create a super unit for this, so you'll be able to see the process of how I create super units and how I break up things and the process behind it. Well, the thought process, I guess. Okay, so right now, let me make sure that I arrange it in a way so you can see the connections a little bit better. So I use a jump preset, so it looks like it worked in this case. But for movement, I actually used a different, I used the move node, but for actually calculating the movement and the velocity in the direction that I'm going, I'm actually using this calculation right here. Okay, so I currently have an add unit here that needs to be replaced with a sum, because I'm trying to make sure that all of the nodes that all of the units that I create, they are also going to work in the new 2021 version, and that's the only one that I actually have to like replace for it to work. So, because it was deprecated. So we got the sum node, and okay, I think that's good. Looks pretty clean. Okay, so the movement, let me actually like show exactly the movement that we have here. So the character movement, basically I can move my camera around, and you can see that the character is actually just standing in one place, is not rotating. And as soon as I move, for instance, if I move forward, then the character actually turns into the direction that the camera is facing and starts moving that direction. Then also I can do the same thing by going back. So if I go back, he's actually moving towards the camera. And then I have side to side. Side to side, you can see that the character is moving to the side of the camera, but there is a slight problem with this movement. And it's basically, the problem is, so let me see, let me place some objects. So there's going to be some reference points. Okay, so side movement, you can see that when the character is moving, the camera is actually turning. It's not actually panning to the side to follow the character. And that is because because the camera is actually the movement of my character to the side is still based on the camera view, and basically it just since the camera is standing in one spot, all it does is actually changes the angle that it's viewing at the character. So it's just following. It's not actually moving the camera, but it's just changing the angle, because it's easier for the camera to do that than panning. And I think there is an option that makes that a little bit better, except I don't remember where it is. So there's controls for aiming, which is what's it doing right now. It's actually aiming towards the player. Let me go to the other project, because I think I tweaked a little bit with the camera for it to follow better. If I can only find the camera. Okay, there it is. So for the camera, what I did, let me see. So I think I changed the orbit. So currently it's set to simple follow with world up. I look at it to target no roll with world up. So I think one of these options is the one that like made it a little bit better. Let me try it out. Just yeah, I think that looks much better. I think there is still a little bit of churn when the character is moving, but or maybe it's just because the angle of the camera shot. But let me try something. What is look to target no roll? Okay, that's not. Okay, so world space. That's the setting that I want to go with. I think that's. So world space is the one that makes the following of the character to the side to not change the angle that much. Okay. So if anyone will get into that issue, now you guys will know. So that's the controls for the character. That's the type of controls, and how they are done here. So right here I have the camera get Y angle, and then I add to that angle based on the direction that the character is actually moving. So I look at the horizontal and vertical, and based on the inputs we have here, I do normalize, which I am using wrong, which gives me the possibilities of basically 45. Yeah, I didn't show that it supports also 45-degree movement. So if you go forward and to the right, is actually is going to go. It's going to go 45 degrees from the camera. So that's also supported with the setup that I have here. Yes, the video will stay on the channel. So if you need to come back and see something, you can do that. Sometimes I make the live streams unlisted, but you can still find that video on in your notifications if you have notifications turned on, or if you have Discord, you can also find it on Discord. Which reminds me, I should post this on Discord. Let's do that. I think I didn't post the previous one on Discord, but it's live on my channel, so. I'm just gonna post that link. Get your link. There we go. Now that link is up. I don't know why the thumbnail for this video is actually pixelated. That's kind of weird. Let me see. Alrighty. I love the channel icon. Thanks for your tutorials. Yeah, good. I'm glad you guys are enjoying those tutorials. I am planning. Well, maybe I'll announce it a little bit later. What I'm going to be doing. Okay, so let's see what we have here. So this is right here is the speed control. So currently its max speed is 3 units. That's what's being controlled right now. It is using the update to move. Well, to calculate the velocity that it's moving at. But the move node, if you go inside here, it's actually using a fixed update. And this move node is pretty standardized. Okay. You deserve a lot of subscribers. Yeah, that's I think that number is bigger than the amount of people actually live in the world right now. But yeah, that'd be nice if. Although, as far as I see, like, if there's actually no point of having a subscriber if they're actually not interested in your content. So. Think that if the people that are interested are actually the ones that are subscribed, and that way you actually know who's your audience is and how much people are actually interested in the content. Okay, so here is the setup, and where was it? So I get a camera, and then based on the horizontal vertical movement I calculate the vector, and then I convert this vector to a signed angle, and the angle calculation is basically based on the vector. So currently the movement determines which direction it points. So if it points to, if I move in horizontal, then it's gonna, the x is gonna be 1. Okay, maybe drawing. Let me see if I can. Let's see. Let me get something to draw so I can explain better. Making a multiplayer with Bolt. Yep, that is possible. There is some code that needs to be written for it to work properly, but so basically how I calculate the vector. So this is, let me see, this is gonna be my center point. And then I have, let me choose a vector moving. So if we are moving just horizontally, then I have a vector point in that direction, which is going to be a unit of 1. So that's going to be moving that way. And then basically that means that I need to move, need to calculate the angle between, so I set the vector from 0 to 1. So the vector that I'm calculating from is, so reference of 0 and 1, meaning 0x and y is 1. So this, from here, I calculate the angle. So I think it goes in this direction. So if we look, let me change the color to, so I have calculations of the angle from this vector to the green vector, and that's how I go about calculating. So this is the angle right here. So it finds out the angle that is between these two vectors, and after that I can use that angle to add to the angle of my camera movement, and that calculates the final velocity angle of my vector, of my player. So get an Euler, convert it to Euler, set to rotation, so it changes the rotation of my player. And then for velocity, it's also just getting the magnitude of the normalized vector, and then it checks, make sure that it's not that it's actually moving. In this case, it doesn't really need to check for 0.001. I mean, it could have checked for 0, although usually when you're dealing with floats, you want to check for something close to 0, not exactly 0, because the float might not be 0. And then sorry about that. And then I use the velocity right there. And this just controls if I need to turn it off or not. So if it's less than 0, less than 0.01, that means that I want to stop moving. And that's where this right here just stops moving. And thank you for your work, helps us to understand much more. Appreciate. Can you do a multiplayer FPS tutorial? So I don't have a specific multiplayer FPS tutorial, but I do have like FPS movement controls for 3D for 3D, and then I also have a multiplayer separate tutorial. And if you combine those two, you can actually make the FPS game if you want. But again, with multiplayer FPS games, you do need to decrease the latency by a lot, because you want to make it as much as real time as possible. The RPG style games of multiplayer are a little bit more forgiving than FPS games, so you'll have to do a lot of settings and calculations for the multiplayer part of it. So just okay, so right here, this right here, this branch check, this is the one that is responsible for making sure that my character is not actually moving if the camera is not moving, if the player is not rotating with the camera, if the player is not moving, because it checks if only rotates my character if I'm actually moving. So this check right there. So what I'm gonna do is break it out to allow move. Break out variables that I'm going to pass into the super unit. So I want to control the speed from outside. Other than that, I think we are all good. So now let's create a super unit. Super unit, copy all of this. Got my inputs and outputs. I'm not sure if I'm going to have any outputs, but the inputs are right here. So I'll just make exactly the variables that I have here. So horizontal, that's not a control, never mind. So value input, I need horizontal, horizontal. Then this can be a float, and yeah, let's make it has default value. Then we'll do vertical. Also a float. And then we can do velocity or speed. Yeah, let's do speed because it's not actually velocity that I need here, because it's specific to the movement that I have here. And it's going to be also a float. And what else? I need a boolean for a allow move. The allow move basically allows me to lock if I'm doing something else. If I'm doing, for instance, I was using it for when the character is mining. You can't actually start moving until the character stops mining. So you can't mine and move at the same time, which is what that allow move misspelled allow. Okay, so it's gonna be a boolean. We got a new subscriber. Cool. Welcome, welcome. Has a default value in case, and the default values can be turned on in case you're not actually using it. Okay, so these are my variables, and now I can just replace those instead. Like that, and then the speed one, I need to create a vector 3. So vector 3, new xyz, and pass in speed as z. And we need to connect it right here. So no outputs for now. I don't think we need any outputs. And here we go. Here's our super unit. This is going to be our third person movement. Now I can replace the connections here. In the previous setups, I actually had the inputs inside of the controller. So this may be, but this one I'm gonna just do it outside for now. So the speed is 3. And looks pretty messy right now, but that's gonna be fixed in a little bit. So all of this can be removed because it's inside of that super unit. And there we go. We have a new super unit, and then I can convert it and save it into my presets. So units, preset units, and this is. Did I spell third correctly? Yes. Don't trust my spelling, so have to check all the time. Okay, so now this is a macro, and we can reuse it in other places, and if we modify this one, it can change other places as well. So okay, can you do a multiplayer tutorial? I did answer that. Hello, are you coding movement using rigid body? Yes, the character is being controlled by a rigid body. Okay, thanks. Feel like making it inspired me to make YouTube videos. Appreciate it. To make YouTube's videos. Okay. Okay, I started making a game without any knowledge before, and you videos really helped me. That's great. That is pretty cool. Yeah, you just have to start making a game, and you'll learn as you go. That's the best approach with this. And you just need to make sure that you're having fun making it. That's makes learning much easier. How much money did you earn with the Keep the Tractor Going game? I didn't check, but I think it's around like $10 or something like that. Yeah, the replayability of the game is not really high, and so I didn't really focus on making that game. It was just a project that I was doing, because to make it more interesting, I need to add a coin shop system in there and have like objectives and stuff like that to make it more interesting. So all of this can be also broken down into super units, but did I disable this? No, it's not. But I'll be doing that as we implement it. So when we're gonna implement new features, I'm gonna use create super units for those. But for now, these are the super units that we have here. And the other graph, this right here, this graph is the logic for that we created last time for building those buildings. I guess for building those buildings. Yeah, that makes sense. So what are we gonna do now? What do you guys have? What should we do next in this for this tutorial, for this game demo? Any suggestions? I want to go back and fix some spelling issues here. So this should be allow. Sure, I switched everywhere, otherwise it'd be nice if you could, if they make it so that if when you rename the variable right here, it actually renames it everywhere that it's used. But that's just, is this a 2D game? No, this is actually 3D. This is a 3D game. So the type of game that I'm creating, it's I guess an RPG style game that I was thinking. I thought about making it a point and click, but my character already has a rigid body controller that I created, that I decided to reuse, so the character can actually jump and do that stuff. I just had a great idea, so let's create the character and the ability of creating cubes. So currently 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's add the ability of placing cubes as well. So I'll add another preset. Let's go to 3D RPG. Let's add a cube. 3D object cube. So 1 unit. Yeah, let's leave it at that. Reset. And for our character, let's add another object. I think I want to scale it up, but let's try this out first. Actually, there's a specific structure that we need to have for it to work. I forgot Okay, so the structure for prefabs is that it has to have a parent pack. Delete. So create empty, and this is going to be cube. Move it inside there. Reset. And I want to scale my cube to let's do half. We can change it later if we want. Okay, so remove that. Now go to character, and we need to use this cube instead. Except I don't have a hotkeys enabled for 4. So currently I have only 3 options. So let's add a 4th option. Duplicate that. That's gonna be 3. Pass that in. Duplicate that. So I'm doing a lot of copy and pasting here. I mean, if it'd be code, I would actually figure out a way how to make it repetitive, but you probably can do it with Visual Scripting as well, but I'm not gonna try doing that. Okay, so that this is gonna support now 4 items. I can add all the way to, I guess, 9 hotkeys, or 10 if I add the 0 as well. So if I click 4 now, I should be able to get that cube. But we need a different grid for this cube. Type and what type of game are you creating? You can create a shader or smooth the mouse movement. Also add some terrain or environment. Yeah, I'm trying to focus just on just the code, the actual programming part, because that's basically what my channel is mostly about. I mean, I've thought about getting to shaders and the visuals. It does take a lot of time to make. Okay, but think in a way that I can switch the grid size. So currently my grid size is 5, so I want to switch it to something else. Let's add a select object ID. This is going to be my integer. By default, it's going to be at 0. Oops. Let's add a set, and after we get, we'll set it here and pass to the next one. Okay, and then I can use this variable get when I'm getting a float. So what I'll do is create a switch on integer default. So the default value is going to be, wait, no, that's not what I want. I actually want a select on flow, on string, on integer. So the default value is going to be 5 that we have right now. Need to reconnect those, and the value that we're checking for is right here. The value that I want to actually look for is currently 3. I mean, this is kind of hard coding it. It's not really making it reusable, but let's see. Looking for 3. So if it's 3, then the value of my grid is going to be different. Let's pass in, I think it's 1. We'll test it out. Add in some terrain. Have you ever modeled in Blender? Yes, I have modeled in Blender. So the grid is still 5 for this one. If I switch to 4, the grid actually changes to 1, but we need to make it half. Let's see. I'll modify my cube, set it to actually 1. Let's just go back to 1. But I also want to move it up. Yeah, that looks good. Let's test it out. Let's test this out again and see if my cubes actually can be placing 1 unit. So switch to cube, 1 unit. I have a minimum radius where it can actually place it, so makes it actually hard to control it. Let's change a material for this cube. Okay, so nice. What type of game are you making? I'm not really sure like what type of game it can be, but I mean I am trying to like make an RPG style of game or something, but currently it's just building out some mechanics that we can reuse later on. But let's go and add a material for this. So it looks like I have to do the same thing that I did in here as well. I think this is the minimum distance that is being calculated. Currently it's at 10. And I need to switch it based on the distance. So 2 for that object and 10 for the other object. Because I want to place those blocks right in front of me, not. You can also set the cursor to lock mode, so it's centered at the middle of the screen. Okay, but that's not really what it's doing. Wait, did I mess it up? If it's 3, it's supposed to use 2. Otherwise, integer 10. What is it doing? Max distance 40. That's how far I can place it. Then spawn position calculates the spawn position based on the I want to add some color with which can really the mood and gameplay. Maybe have an interesting theme for color which can show story and make a game more lively. Yeah, visuals are very important. think I messed something up with that. With this thing right here. Although it shouldn't change anything. Let me see. Let's undo this. So that was supposed to be just 10. This is supposed to be 5, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Oh, actually it's supposed to be 4, not 3. Okay, that's why it's all messed up. Okay, undo. Well, the value is actually 3. Never mind. So that should have worked fine. Movement when you are trying to place a cube, as it is very jittery. The reason why the cubes are jittery is because the cube needs to be placed on the grid. You can't really just place it anywhere. So that's why that jittering is actually important. Otherwise, you'll be just placing random cubes and they'll never connect. It's not what we're looking for. Okay, so that's enough of playing with scaling and stuff like that. I think that'd be. I think like there's lots more work that needs to be done for it. For instance, I also need to create a little bit more information about those objects, like if they actually can be multi-level, if they can be placed on each other, which in this case they should be for the cubes. For the walls, the walls shouldn't be stackable, and those are the settings that need to be passed. Also for the grid size, that's also information that needs to be stored with the prefab. And I think the easiest way would be to actually go and with visual scripting is actually storing it as a variable inside here. So actually have variables. And in here we can specify, for instance, grid, grid size, and then we say what's the grid size for it. So integer, unless we want to leave it as float. I think float is fine. So for instance, for the cube, the grid size would be 1. And then also here we need to create if it's stackable or not. Let's call it multi-level. 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 So multi-level, and it's a boolean. So this one is actually multi-level. So we can actually store it like that for our cube. And then in our character, instead of having that whole storage thing, set object ID and stuff, we can just wait. We can just drop that selected object ID. And use the, so we should have selected object, then get variable, this can be an object variable, so this will be grid, that's lowercase, grid size from this object, and pass that as the value that we have here. But not all of our objects actually have a grid. Why is it shown in there? Object cannot be null. So, and I can add a fallback. And connect, fallback is gonna be 5. So if one of the objects doesn't have that variable defined, it's just gonna drop back to 5. And that should get the grid sizing to work based on the variable that we have set in the prefab. So we modified it for the cube currently. So switch to cube, and there we go. That's how it works. And that looks like the grid size is, then it falls back to 5 if we don't have any variables. We can specify 5 as the object size. Now that's one, and then the other option that I just did was multi-level. Currently the position that it's been calculated where it needs to spawn is based on the fixed update right here. What are you trying to do right now with cubes and walls? I'm just creating a build system, so currently it's just being able to create some prefabs that you can pass in with some configuration, and that you'll be able to place them in the world. So it's not really just wall on a cube. I'm trying to make it so that you can basically use any type of object to do that. So currently the position is based on the camera, and I do a ray cast, and if it hits, looking for ground, if it hits the ground. Now if I enable it to have multi-level, the problem is that either all of my blocks, well, yeah, I can actually add more masks here, but I can just say that for now that my cube is actually going to be a ground. So it's layer ground, and yes, we want to change for the children as well. But that is going to create, currently it looks like the collision with ground, and I'm not actually getting get point. Then when I'm placing it, set position. So when I'm placing it right here, it just sets the Y back to 0. That means that currently it will actually ignore the position of the cube, which is fine. That's probably what I want to do. And so let me so multi level. So fallback is going to be a boolean false. That means that it's not multi-level. Move this place right there, and then use a select. If I can spell select, control based on true false, and this is going to be if true. I'm going to pass in if it's true, then I'll pass in the get y. Oh, not that, get y, okay. Vector 3, get y. And if it's false, then it's just gonna be a 0. Getting a little bit crowded here. Let's space it out. So I only want to use multi-level if multi-level is actually allowed. But yeah, not the best approach either. Close it. Let's test it out. Let's see what's gonna look like. So I should not be able to place, well, I can place the walls right now just regularly, and then the cubes. Okay, looks like it's not actually working. also forgot I actually don't use that part, so haven't deleted it previous time, and it actually caused me some. Okay, so all the calculations actually inside here, but there is some problem here. So technically I'm not supposed to add get position of my current player there. I think I'm supposed to just go straight, because otherwise it's going to be relative to the player, and I think that's where that whole weird thing was happening of me not being able to position. So let's see if that's going to work better. So I should always place the object in front of me, in front of the camera. Okay, now the stackable option is also working. But with the stackable option, I only allow it to be placed on top. So if it's actually colliding. Really need to fix the ground check for my player. Currently it's being weird. Anyways, I think that I'm gonna actually have a gonna call it good for this stream. Maybe a couple more minutes. But do you guys have any questions or anything? One announcement that I was going to do, I was thinking about it for quite some time already, and I'm thinking of actually making a tutorial series for actually like introduction to code as just a challenge for all my subscribers and everyone, because I know that majority actually subscribe because of the no code and stuff like that, and visual scripting, but I think sometimes it's good to challenge yourself. So probably the next tutorials that I'm going to be making is going to be like a series of using code, and I'll be like, I guess, introduction to code and stuff like that. So something like I did for Bolt, the previous series. I still have one tutorial that I did promise that I'm gonna make, and it's the input system, converting that into the input system. So I'll probably do that next, and after that one, I'll make some C# tutorials. Like just choose a simple game that's gonna be mostly focused on coding, not that much of a game Unity, I guess, like placing items in Unity, but I'll try to use, yeah. So, and again, it's gonna be like a intro, I guess, 101 C# course based on the knowledge that you guys already have, or make that, because I did have a lot of requests, and a lot of people are responding that there's already a lot of C# tutorials, but I don't know, every person actually just presents it a little bit different. I do have a lot, I mean, I have a degree actually in electrical engineering, and I also minored in computer science. Worked in the industry of computer engineering, well, not computer software engineering for 7 years. So do have a background in coding. Maybe it's gonna be better for you guys how I'm gonna be teaching you or something like that. But And also as a challenge, you guys can test it out, try it out, and see if code is as scary as they say it is. Because I don't know, if you're, yeah, it's just if you get the idea of how it works, then I think it does save a lot more time than visual scripting, because finding a unit and adding it in takes a little bit longer than actually just adding a class and stuff like that. And keeping your games and code clean. Also with visual scripting, I mean, you have the super units that you can use, but even with those, it's just a one way you can maintain your code and keeping it clean. In code, there's much more options you have to keeping it clean, and I think it's always good to try it out. Maybe that is the route that is better for you guys. I have been doing, I think, Bolt since yeah, so it's 10 months, about 10 months. Yeah, I've been doing Bolt tutorials, and before that I was doing build box tutorials. So I think it's time to try out coding and see if you guys have interest in that, because yeah, like I said, I had requests for that already, quite a few, but I was just, try to keep it no code and stuff like that. So that's the announcement, and that's what I'm gonna be doing next week. Probably I didn't really do that much tutorials this week. Was busy in the garden and stuff like that, because it's April, so gotta prepare everything. And yep, so that will be it for this stream. It's a really short one, so I guess that will be it. Have a great day or night, whatever you guys are at, and see you guys later. I'll do one more stream on this next Saturday, and hopefully I'm gonna have more ideas of what to add, what kind of mechanics to add into this game. If you have any suggestions, you can always write comments in under this video, and I'll see the suggestions and choose one mechanic that I'll focus on. Thanks again, and